Who is the biggest dynasty winner coming out of week 8? All that and more in this episode of the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Mosher and Kate Magdziuk.
Welcome into the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, everybody. I am Kate Magdziuk. You could follow me on Twitter at FFBallblast. And as always, I'm joined by my good friend, Mosher. You can follow him on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Please be sure, give the show a follow at Locked On Dynasty. Hit that subscribe wherever you're listening, especially on YouTube. Go subscribe on YouTube. Give us those little thumbs up emojis because we really appreciate it. And it helps others find the show while we help you build the ultimate dynasty fantasy football roster. Marcus, happy Monday. We are almost through week 8. And arguably, I think we just saw the best week of football that we have seen in some time.
I don't disagree. Happy Halloween, by the way.
We
should have dressed up for the podcast. That's fine. All right. I got a takeaway from week 8, Kate. This is not some groundbreaking news, but I think it's important to remember. Play your studs. Like, even if it's a tough matchup, if they're going through injury and they're out there playing, play your studs. Because, Kate, we saw on Sunday the biggest stars in the NFL all put up huge numbers. Let's start with our guy, Derrick Henry, right? You would think in a matchup, playing with a rookie quarterback, he was going to get a lot of work, that, hey, maybe this isn't going to be the most efficient day for him, that, Houston's, pretty decent on defense. They're going to stop the run. Nope. Derrick Henry, 32 carries, 219 yards, 2 touchdowns. Also added in a reception. DK Metcalf going through, I think it's a knee injury, didn't practice all week, was active. What does he do? 6 catches, 55 yards, and a touchdown. How about Stephon Diggs playing against Jair Alexander, maybe the best outside cornerback in the league? 6 catches, 108 yards, and a touchdown. Terry McLaurin going up against Stephon Gilmore, one of the best corners in the NFL, defensive player of the year a few years ago. What does he do in this game with the backup quarterback? 6 catches, 113 yards. Play your studs, play your studs, play your studs. I don't care what they're going through. I don't care about the matchup. They are studs for a reason. That's my biggest takeaway from week 8.
My biggest takeaway, I think, from that entire spiel you just had, Marcus, was that you just labeled Terry McLaurin a stud once again. Are we here for a Terry McLaurin? Okay.
He's a stud.
I think he's more of a real life stud than a fantasy stud, but as long as Taylor Heineke is in at quarterback, maybe it doesn't matter.
But we've seen this now in back-to-back weeks, right? 8 catches, 113 yards against the Colts. 5 catches for 73 yards against the Packers. Like, even in matchups that where you'd think against really good corners and good defenses, he's not going to produce. He does, because he's a real life actual stud.
He is a real life actual stud. And I think, there is one team that could definitely use a real life actual stud, and the Green Bay Packers, but we can talk about that a little bit later. But yes, definitely one of those weeks where you absolutely remembered exactly why you drafted these players. DeAndre Hopkins came back, has come back with a true vengeance here in his return from suspension. Just absolutely just crushing, soul crushing if you faced him. 12 receptions, 159 yards and a score. He's looking healthy. He is looking back. He looks happy to be back with his teammates here. So I think this was a prime example of that. Now, I'm going to be honest, Marcus, I did not start DK Metcalf anywhere. I had him in Scott Fishbowl. I sat him in every single league because I said to myself, there is no possible way that this man returns to the lineup after news. There was initial speculation he might miss a month. And he comes back the next week.
Yep.
Are you serious? Are you serious? I just can't. It's ridiculous.
The other thing I want to say just really quickly before we start talking about some running backs that had huge performances. I don't know if Tua Tagovailoa is a great NFL quarterback, but he's so important for fantasy, right? Because when he's healthy, this Dolphins offense is incredible. In this game, 29 of 36, 382 yards, 3 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill, 12 catches for 188 yards. Jalen Waddle, 8 catches for 106 yards and 2 touchdowns. I don't want to say he's the most important fantasy quarterback out there because he's not, but man, when he's on the field, this Dolphins team can support 2 wide receiver ones. I don't think you can say that about any other team in the NFL right now.
I'm gonna step in and argue Joe Burrow is the same, but I do think that, I mean, Tua, when he's under center, like he's sitting as the quarterback 7 in points per game right now, which
Incredible.
he's not hitting Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts numbers. Like he doesn't look like a Patrick Mahomes or even a Joe Burrow, but when he is under center, everything else starts to click. And I think that is what makes him so important to this offense. I think, like I said, the Bengals are probably the only other like 1-2 duo that I think are going to be rivaling this team at this point, in this duo, and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Like both of these guys have a legitimate shot at finishing in the top 12 for fantasy wide receivers. And I don't think a lot of people expected that with Tua under center. So just really rolling.
And they weren't even necessarily being drafted that way in redraft leagues, this offseason, right? I think people were kind of putting their chips down on one player or the other, but neither of those guys were being drafted as top 5 receivers, I don't believe. And now if you have them in Dynasty, if you have them on the same team in Dynasty, you're just so excited that every single week you're basically getting like 300 yards from these 2 players and a lock to score at least 1 touchdown. It's absolutely incredible. Kate, we've gone too long without talking about a certain Dallas Cowboys player. I want to do that. But before we do that, I want to let you know that this show is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Listen, unfortunately, life does not come with a user manual. So when it's not working for you, it's normal to feel stuck. Therapists are trained to help you figure out the cause of challenging emotions and learn productive coping skills, which makes therapy the closest thing to a guided tour of the complex engine called you. BetterHelp has connected over 3 million people with licensed therapists. It's convenient, secure, and accessible anywhere, 100% online. Everyone deserves to feel their best. BetterHelp can make it easier to get it started. As the world's largest therapy service, they've matched millions of people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists available 100% online. All the benefits of in-person therapy, plus it's more convenient, accessible, and more affordable. No waiting rooms, no traffic, no endless searching for the right therapist. It's all right there for you, as convenient as it can be. Get unstuck with BetterHelp. Learn more and save 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That is betterhelp.com/lockedon. All right, Kate. We have 2 breakout running backs here in week 8. Which one do you want to start with?
I think we should talk about the Dallas Cowboys RB1, Tony Pollard, who is just literally crushing it every single time he gets like true opportunity, Marcus. Like he's so fun to watch. He is so explosive. He adds an element to this Dallas Cowboys offense that Zeke does not currently offer. Like I think it's so clear to the rest of us, but end of game presser and after a career day, Jerry Jones, of course, says we are going to go as Zeke goes.
Oh, you got to do a better Jerry Jones impression. We're going to go as Zeke Elliott goes.
Oh my gosh, that ate my throat alive. I could not imagine speaking with as Jerry Jones every single day. He's a true hero for having the cojones to speak in that voice for his entire life. But like Tony Pollard, I think it's so fascinating because I see it, you see it, literally everybody sees it. He could be the answer to help this offense propel truly into Super Bowl contention. And like right now, I believe they're the 4th best odds in the NFL to win the Super Bowl. Might be 5th.
4th best odds, just according to 538. I just saw it this morning.
Excellent. So I think they've got the defense, they've got the quarterback back. Like the thing that they haven't really had this year was that explosive run game. And I think like what a missed opportunity if Jerry Jones seriously cannot hand over the reins and get Tony Pollard more involved.
This is a really tricky one. So Tony Pollard, again, 14 carries, 131 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Did catch 1 pass for 16 yards. It's just clear the Cowboys aren't going to overwork Tony Pollard. Like, they want to get him somewhere between 12 and 14 touches every single game. And even in this game, Kate, like
15.
Malik Davis, 8 carries, 23 yards. Kavonte Turpin got a carry. CeeDee Lamb got a carry. Dak Prescott got 5 carries. I think Pollard's role on this team is locked in. Like, you can bet on him to get double-digit touches a game, but he's not going to ever get 20 carries in a game because they just don't want to use him that way. And that makes him a really tricky dynasty player to own because you're not sure which week to play him other than the weeks when it's clear Ezekiel Elliott's not going to play. He's a big play threat waiting to happen. He's also on the last year of his rookie contract. Will the Cowboys sign him to a deal? We'll see. Currently RB25. Is that too low?
I think so. That maybe that's just me though. Marcus, like as a backup, even before week 8, we saw him do some really incredible things. 4 games total this year, including week 8 with 80 or more rushing yards as a backup. Dude has not had more than 14 rush attempts in a single game. Like, he is efficient. He is explosive. And Marcus, I honestly think that he's kind of a cheat code for dynasty, especially in those deeper dynasty leagues where you really don't exactly, have a ton of options in terms of depth. Like, Tony Pollard is one of these guys that in the dynasty leagues where I have him, he's just kind of been a lock flex play for me because the touchdown upside is 100% there. The breakaway play ability, 100% there. He's just a really, really good football player. I mean, even in week 2, he didn't hit that 80 rushing yard mark, but he still had 4 receptions for 55 receiving yards. Like, even when he's not getting it done on the ground, like he's involved in this team, period. He's he's a
stud
flex guy for me. And Marcus, do you really like, I want the inside scoop here from the Cowboys. Is there any universe where this team actually signs Tony Pollard? Because I think if he tests free agency, there's going to be a lot of interest. And so many teams would be craving a running back as explosive as Pollard. Go trade for Pollard in your dynasty leagues and see what happens in free agency. What's going to happen with the Cowboys, Marcus?
I don't see any way the Cowboys move on from Ezekiel Elliott after this year. They still have too much guaranteed money on his deal. More likely they move on from him after the 2023 season. Cowboys are already paying Zeke a ton of money. Can they really invest that much more back into Tony Pollard?
No.
I say no. I think there's a chance they'd use like a transition tag to try to get him at like 10 million a year, but no, I don't see that, Kate. So he's inching closer and closer to free agency. And Kate, just really quickly, here are the running backs in NFL history who are averaging more yards per carry than Tony Pollard. It's Nick Chubb, it's Jamal Charles, and that is the list.
Boom. So I've heard of those guys. They are good.
All right, let's talk about another running back. And this one is even more shocking to me than Tony Pollard because we kind of know Tony Pollard's a good player and he's been a good player for a while. D'Onta Foreman. Well, first of all, what a career to bounce around the league. He overcame an Achilles injury. He's really the only running back to ever do it. Since the Panthers traded Christian McCaffrey, 118 yards against Tampa Bay, 2 catches for 27 yards. Against the Falcons, 26 carries for 118 yards and 3 touchdowns. Okay, my question for you. It's pretty clear that this is going to be the lead running back for Carolina going forward. If you are in a win now window in your dynasty league, what is the most that you would give up for D'Onta Foreman?
I'm gonna say a third and then maybe some ancillary player pick. Like this is a good upcoming draft, so I don't want to invest too heavily. And Marcus, like we saw last year, I want to flash back to Deontay Foreman's time with the Titans. Had a really, really fantastic outing with the Titans once Derrick Henry went down with injury. But I mean, for even how fantastic he was really volatile. And I do think that this is a really volatile offense in general. Like, I mean, you cannot bank on this team bouncing back. I can't even remember how many yards PJ Walker had in like the first quarter. It was just so bad. Like this team, I don't want to invest too much stock in this team, but like we've seen the highs and lows last year. 19 carries, 109 rushing yards in week 12. But then 13 carries, 47 rushing yards, 22 carries for 108. Like next game, he had 17 rushing yards. Like it was definitely an up and down kind of process with Deontay Foreman last year. And I do think we're probably in for some of the same, which is why I say a third. And then I don't know, maybe I'll top that off with like, a wide receiver.
Yep. I
4.
think I agree with you. And it's tough because I think this Carolina team is playing better. And I think they do want to have one guy to run the offense through. But I think I agree. I think Carolina will sign somebody next year, bring in somebody to compete with Foreman. But man, I think it's fair to at least expect RB2 numbers the rest of the way, right?
I think that's fair. The only question mark I have is what is this going to look like when we see Chuba Hubbard come back from his ankle injury? Like, do they start to, really split that backfield evenly once Chuba's healthy? I don't really know. And I think that's what's holding me back in terms of like roster construction for the Panthers. There's so many question marks, but no, I don't think there's probably a cheaper win now asset in Dynasty than Deontay Foreman, and he's got a great story.
Yep. All right, let's talk about some players who maybe saw their value decrease a little bit on Sunday. But before we do that, we want to tell you about Blue Nile. Whether you're ready to pop the question or you're celebrating a milestone moment, find jewelry as unique as her with the modern convenience of online shopping at BlueNile.com. Blue Nile has simple online tools that let you choose the diamond shape, size, and clarity, as well as setting style. Blue Nile will then handcraft a perfect engagement ring, and each ring is one of a kind. Make your moment sparkle with BlueNile.com, and Locked On listeners will get 50% off or $50 off, of purchases of $500 or more. This podcast exclusive includes engagement. Use promo code Locked On. That is promo code Locked On. Plus, every order is insured. It ships free, and it arrives in this like little secret packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. All right, Kate, we need to talk about a certain receiver for the Jets because this one is a bummer. Elijah Moore.
Yeah.
0 catches on Sunday. He got just 1 target. He again expressed his frustration with the chemistry with Zach Wilson. He threw for 355 yards in this game, and Elijah Moore had 1 target, and Corey Davis was out. Elijah Moore, this is somebody who had like a top 25 wide receiver all summer long. What are we doing with him?
I mean, I think you have to hold right now, at least until the end of the NFL trade deadline, which is Tuesday, November 1st. So that is tomorrow.
Yep.
But if he's stuck with the Jets, I'm not feeling this at all.
It's just not a good fit.
It's not a good fit. He's clearly frustrated. Marcus, you made that mention of what his frustration with the chemistry with Zach Wilson. I believe what his frustration was that he wouldn't know because he doesn't get the ball.
Yep.
Like that is like ultimate shots fired. I think the team, what was their excuse this week for not getting him on the field? He played he ran just 7 routes on the entire week. For comparison, teammate Garrett Wilson ran 42. But the team said they were looking to get Garrett Wilson on the field. Now, does that explain why Denzel Mims, who has been in the dog house,
Yeah.
ran 32 routes? Like, no, like, I'm sorry. Elijah Moore is the much better player over Denzel Mims. And when he gets the ball, we've seen him shine, and that's great. But like, it's very clear that this offense is not going to do anything with Elijah Moore, which
No.
brings me to my point. Trade the man. Like,
Trade him.
they've
You
come
could
out
get
to
a
say
second round pick.
no
You could get a second round pick for Elijah Moore. I'm confident in that.
easily. And like, if the Steelers were to give up a second round pick for Elijah Moore, I would be over the moon excited. Like this, trade him to the Packers. The Packers need
Yes.
a guy that's like immediately able to make plays. Elijah Moore is that guy. And the Jets came out to say they don't want to trade him. I don't really get why. If you're going to sit him on the bench for 7 routes a game, trade him.
Trade him. You're just wasting an asset, right? I got another one, Kate. This player still is. He's a top 30 receiver, and this is his last 3 games. 2 for 14, 3 for 23, 1 for 13. I'm talking about Courtland Sutton. I'm really worried about Courtland Sutton, and I have Courtland Sutton in almost every single dynasty league. I thought he would be the DK Metcalf in this offense. He would be the one making big plays down the field, and it's just not happening. He has no rapport with Russell Wilson at all, and it's been a while now for Courtland Sutton. Kate, this isn't like a super young receiver. It's not like he's a 24-year-old. He's 27. And he really hasn't had that breakout season in a while now. I'm nervous about Courtland Sutton.
Yeah, I don't think we're at the point where we can point to like the torn ACL anymore. Like we can't we can't say like, oh, he's still coming. No, like this is just kind of who Courtland Sutton is right now. Marcus, he's had just 6 top 12 weeks in his entire career.
Yeah.
6.
Okay, here's something that's even more concerning. Since the start of the 2020 season, he has 3 touchdowns. 3.
Yeah, I'm all over selling Courtland Sutton wherever I can. Heading into this week, he ranked 3rd in air yards, which like that's the metric everybody looks at where they're like, okay, so like maybe these guys aren't connecting right now, but they're this close. Like that's our sort of upside metric, right? Like how far are you being targeted down the field? Like even if you're not connecting, we want to see that opportunity there. The opportunity is there for Courtland Sutton, and it has been, but they do not have the kind of connection that we thought. And honestly, I'm looking to move him. Obviously, Russell Wilson's not going to go anywhere with the contract he has. I think our best bet maybe is that Courtland Sutton is traded at some point, or I don't really know what the upside is there. But Marcus, like I said, even in his best seasons, have only seen 3 top 12 performances. 2019, only 7 top 24 weeks.
It's tough out there. One last just kind of dynasty loser. Listen, we could do this whole offense right now, but it's Kenny Pickett and the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's not working. Kenny Pickett's really struggling right now, and it's really hurting the value of everybody on offense. Najee Harris, 8 carries for 32 yards. Chase Claypool, 4 for 45, and I'm actually surprised he got that much. He had 1 really nice reception that kind of boosted that total up. Deontay Johnson, who was a plug-and-play wide receiver 2 every single week last year, 5 for 35. No catches for George Pickens in this game on only 3 targets. I mean, we're in a bad place with the Steelers offense right now that nobody you can really trust from week to week to have any kind of value.
No, Kenny Pickett, in terms of his pace right now, Marcus, he's on a 17-game pace for 3,600 total yards, 7 touchdowns, and 27 interceptions.
Yeah, that's rough.
10 fumbles. Like that's his 17-game pace right now. And that's atrocious. And like, I'm sick of the comps to like these legendary quarterbacks who started out their rookie seasons really slow. Like Kenny Pickett is not Peyton Manning. He wasn't the prospect. Like Kenny Pickett, small hands, 5th year, redshirt senior breakout, like
24 years old. Yep.
20, like this is not a spring chicken. Okay.
No.
Like this is a guy who in his final career at Pitt, or in his final year at Pitt, he had a nice year. And I think this, like I've been all over this for quite some time, and I'm trying not to tilt too hard because I've already not loved Kenny Pickett as a prospect, but geez, Marcus, like it's really rough. Another quarterback loser. We got to talk about Derek Carr. Just absolutely not getting anything done. Like
I don't believe the Raiders crossed the 50 at any point yesterday.
No, and this, like it's sad watching this team. Like Derek Carr just looks lost, absolutely lost. I cannot believe that this is a team that was in the playoffs just last season. Derek Carr, though, I think people are losing patience with him in the last 4 games, thrown just 3 touchdowns, like not averaging under 200 passing yards per game. Like he's not getting it done. And the Raiders are really going to have to examine their options this offseason. I think in terms of any value being left for Derek Carr as a fantasy quarterback, if you can move him for anything,
it's gone.
Like a 4th rounder, I'll take it. In a super flex, I'll take a 4th rounder.
I'm going to read you just their drives with Derek Carr yesterday. 3 plays, -2 yards punt. 8 plays, 27 yards punt. 5 plays, 17 yards turnover on downs. 3 plays, 8 yards interception. 8 plays, 24 yards punt. End of half. 5 plays, 16 yards punt. 9 plays, 20 yards. Great drive punt. 14 plays, 64 yards. End of game. That was actually with Jarrett Stidham. Like they never had more than 20 yards on a drive with Derek Carr. Like that's how bad things were for the Raiders on Sunday. And I mean, listen, their schedule gets a lot easier. They play the Jaguars, they play the Colts, they play the Steelers coming up. They have some games where they'll put up points, but the days of thinking Derek Carr could be like a low-end QB1 are absolutely gone.
Yep. I tried to warn you guys.
Yeah, it's not good. Plus, Kate just doesn't like watching Derek Carr. I think that's part of it.
I really don't. And like, I mean, Marcus, this season.
That's okay. I have a quarterback like that I don't like to watch either. So
Kenny Pickett.
Well, no, it's Kyler Murray for me. It's just so frantic. But all right, that is it.
That's every time you see Kyler Murray in his brain. That's what goes through my head.
I dressed up as Luigi for Halloween. I should have worn my Luigi stuff for the show today. All right, that is it for today's show. Thank you for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast, the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Follow Locked On Dynasty on YouTube. Please go subscribe over there. You can follow Kate on Twitter at FFBallBlast. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. Enjoy your Halloween, and we'll see you guys right back here tomorrow. Matt and Ryan Tuesday and Wednesday. Kate, you and I Thursday and Friday this week. Enjoy your week, guys. We'll see you then.